It is Shirley with Spirit of Matter, and in my hand I am holding a Moldavite, also Moldavite crystal. I'm holding a couple of crystals to anchor it in, but I want to show you this one, and this is a tiny Moldavite. And today, as Venus retrograde, I kind of returned to work with it in recent days. And I'm going to talk about the other crystals, but this is a Moldavite video, and kind of rewatched what do people experience with Moldavite now. Um, and so Moldavite is basically a form of a tektite. It is found only in one place in the world, and that is Česky in Czech Republic. And therefore it is mined with a lot of diligence, and there's a lot of bureaucracy around the rights to mine this crystal. And so when you're getting an actual Moldavite, it's very likely you're getting an ethically sourced one because you simply buy it almost directly from the miners. All the stores that you buy or the people that sell them buy it directly from the miners. So I feel comfortable talking about Moldavite. The other problem with Moldavite is that it's running out. And today I kind of thought, well, as Uranus ingressed into Taurus, pretty much quite afterwards, we began to have a booming of Moldavite on TikTok. So Moldavite was booming on YouTube, and then it was booming on TikTok. And the experience that people have with this particular crystal, first of all, it's a crystal that even if you don't usually feel anything from crystals, people can get like tingling sensations. They immediately feel this crystal. It can be more sensitivity to your environment. And with the color green, like anything green, which is the color of Venus and Mercury, you get changes in your life, rejuvenation, what no longer serves leaves. And with this one, it is very abruptly, it's very blunt. This is even more strong than malachite, for those who know malachite. That is also a Venus crystal. But this particular one is not just particularly Venus or Mercury, although in the Mercury retrograde it is less preferred to work with the Moldavite, so it's also associated with Mercury. But the changes that happen in the lives of the people who use it are quite abrupt and can be blunt. So it's a sudden change, sudden liberation, sudden release. People expose their true nature. It's a very exposing crystal, and therefore it's also a psychically protective crystal. Okay, I remember when Christopher Warnock talked about Algol and how some of the people who wear Algol talismans get this experience where people expose their true nature around them, and they walk away if the person, if they are not in a good nature. With Moldavite, it has that effect too. It has nothing to do with alcohol per se, but it has that effect too. And so it can really cleanse and clear and purge also people's circumstances, situations. And also, if you are not on your path, okay? And this is just Moldavite, I didn't say anything else. If you are not on your path, Moldavite is very likely to put you on your path. What does it mean? Let's say you're working for a job, daytime job, and you're looking for, to be safe to feed your family. But you become sick now. Moldavite can bring the sickness even more strongly because you will have to leave your job and then you will have to do only something that you really enjoy doing. Otherwise, you cannot get up. I'm having this. Okay. Now, as I'm speaking, I'm like, oh, this is what's happening to me. you know? Now, as Rao moved to my second house, which is also skills. It's also what you make money from. Um, I find out that there are certain things that if I do them, I get up in the morning. Okay, I'll give you concrete examples. I walked to the garden and slept a bit on the ground, and it was still wet. And then I came back and I saw my one tomato that grows in the yard, my one tomato. And I was very, very tired, exhausted, and I'm studying these tomatoes. Um, I saw this one tomato, just one tomato, green one tomato. It was growing a little bit. Immediately, I left everything and I watered the entire garden. It was like a miracle because I was so tired. Okay. And so, or I remember a particular day, I woke up with something to write. And I know right now it's very hot days, but it's not hot all the year. I live in the mountains. Um, I literally live in the mountains. Desert, but yeah. So I said I have to hurry to a cafe or something because in the hot season you want to spend the hot hours in a place where there is air condition, um, and not have to like charge it yourself. So you could go on a vacation with this money, especially now when prices are so expensive for electricity and gas. And say I have to get to a cafe. As I was having this idea to write something, everything got okay. I took my notebook, my pen, notebook and pen, not even a computer. And I went out of the home. And I was so exhausted because I didn't sleep well. I'm like, oh, something is going on. Okay. And there's, of course, the astrology videos. And also with my shop in second house, also what you spend money on. Yesterday, I just had to try and make even though the moon was like, it's not even new moon, I just had to make infused oil. And actually, it didn't succeed. And I was like, damn, why did I have this impulse to do this? And as I was grieving, because I tried it with fresh herbs and they rot, it was sunny, so they was rotting, so entire oil. But I was so excited to do this. I was like, what is going on? As I was grieving, I was like, successful people, there's what I wrote yesterday, successful people, they can often experience like they feel a failure because most of what they try does not work. Think about inventors. They can literally have Aries in the second house with Mercury in it. It's trying things again and again that are new, inventing stuff. Okay? And it was tremendous grief. But also, most people who are inventors, most of what they do don't work. And then I started thinking about, the tomato that is growing, pepper that is growing. It's like all the things that I do that are working in my life. Oh, like I'm not a failure. Because this one, thing that I really felt the urge to do failed, and I knew like the moon is like, it's not the time to do this, but I had to do this. And sometimes it's not the time to do this, but it still somehow works, like my garlic. And those are experiences that happen working with both the garlic for me and with Moldavite brings those experiences to the forefront. They're going to be extreme, they're going to be sharp, they're going to be blatant. And what did we have? We had Venus square in Uranus, we had later Sun yesterday, tightly square in Uranus. Again, today is the day of the new moon. So we're going to have the moon and the sun square in Uranus. And all of these things that I'm saying are pointing to some influence that if I wanted to astrologically delineate what is this, what is this crystal, I would have to go with Uranus. When you have a transit of Uranus to your personal planet, okay, when Uranus touches your personal planet, which is Mars, Venus, Sun, Moon, and to a lesser degree Jupiter and even Saturn, okay, then it's no longer an outer planet for you. You are directly channeling its energy, or even ascendant. Okay, I know people with Uranus on the ascendant, they constantly download stuff, and I don't mean off from the internet. They have channelings, they have eurekas, um, and and also this crystal. What the reason I pressed record, which I always pay attention. What made me press record now? I was watching some of these videos, and one lady said, "No, Moldavite will not fuck up your life, okay? Because it does cause a lot of changes. It will make it more authentic." He said, "No, Moldavite is not about like causing a lot of divorce." She said the word divorce, and I'm like, "Oh, Uranus, okay?" Because when Uranus Venus hits, and I was having a video about relationships and outer planets to inner planets. I have a famous video that I did about this with the Venus wisdom on a Venus day. Gonna need to scroll. Gonna need to scroll a year or two. But yesterday I also made a video about relationship tips, and I talked about outer planets to inner planets. I said I'm less concerned about Uranus because Uranus is doing something that's alignment with your path, is liberating you, and it's usually about finding your goal in life. Okay, uh, whether you're gonna stay in the relationship or not. Okay, and then it can be affairs and cheatings, but it's unless very harshly aspected or involved, it's not the life risking stuff. Although if you are having other life risky stuff, it's kind of like poof. It's like let's see, let's be aware that this is risky, that this is not good, and abolish this from our life. Okay, purge this, let this go from my life. So Uranus is also a planet that can lead to divorce, but only if you are the reason you were married. Maybe you were in a marriage that is whether arranged or chosen, it doesn't matter. Okay, there can be successful arranged marriages, especially if they're like in India, arranged by astrologers, which is Uranus. But there can also be unsuccessful, and there can also be unsuccessful chosen marriage. You fell in love with the person, you had similar values. Perhaps it was good for then and not good for now. And I talked about such events with the outer planets and the social construct and context yesterday on my relationship videos. Tips for relationship for people who can, okay? Um, but also, if you were not on your path in your relationship and you're being on your path is not okay with your partner, then there can be divorce, okay? But it's not that Uranus causes divorce per se, it just puts you on your path. Okay, for example, with my parents, my mother went on traveling and met my father. My father is Dutch, my mother is Israeli. She learned from my father to appreciate nature. She became very connected with nature. It was very useful to her because it would also heal things that she dealt with. Okay. Later, they lived for a decade. Later, they divorced. Yeah. And she has Uranus associated with her seventh house, or either seventh house ruler or opposing Venus or Uranus in the seventh house. And even for me, where I have my moon in my mother's seventh house, we have a kind of Uranian where we sometimes can be together, we sometimes need space. And we've learned that this is okay, that this is not rejection. Okay. And this is another Uranus trait. The type of relationships may include certain type of space, separate houses, even and something that is not the norm. Okay, something that's a bit unusual. There are people who do astrology. Okay, Lada Doncheva has Uranus involved with her relationship, and as she became astrologer, it was around meeting her husband, and this relationship was successful when she became astrologer. There were other parameters, but this also for me, as I delved more and more into astrology, I purged what's no longer serving, and I'm not in a relationship, but I'm also more radically accepting of like my path and so on. So astrology is very mediating, and the way Uranus does changes is to liberate you. You work with this, liberate you. Also, one person that found he really liked the energy of Moldavite, who began laughing and so, but he found it overwhelming, and later he needed to get this out of the house. And at first we thought to clean this and not, and it was a person, a friend that I knew for 10 years. And as it began to grow more into channeling, he was very afraid because he grew up in religious indoctrination. He was not in himself orthodox in any way, shape, or form, but also we were taking place in our connection that is perhaps more so than the place that we should have been taken in each other's life for the time being. Okay, we're not partners, we're not going to marry, but we were good friends, and both of us were afraid of change. And um, he could not live with the energy of this Moldavite. And eventually, I would leave. Eventually, I would need to leave because I was channeling, and you know, I had to be on my path, and I can be totally empathic and remember all the good things that were there, but it's no longer. Okay, and that happened very bluntly. Okay, one sudden day, I had to walk out. Again, I had to protect my energy even, and I said it with zero blame because you know um, it's like a natural disaster. It's like kind of like this is what happens. This is nature. It's the nature of event, nature of change. And so this Moldavite, as it started booming in Uranus and Taurus, and you can't ignore this is olive green. Okay, it's very much the color for Venus, but also associated with Mercury, because when Mercury retrogrades, usually it's time to either put the Moldavite aside or really, really anchor it with other crystals. If you have channeling or mediumship, it's going to boost it, it's going to open it. I've had a friend in my house that started holding the Moldavite, working with the Moldavite, and they were starting to do mediumship at the time. So that really facilitated this. I had actually a colleague that around the time where they were buying a house alone, okay, woman alone buying a house, um, they wanted to try Moldavite, so I gave them a Moldavite, and they could not sleep without this. They had to be with this Moldavite. And they say, I really like this Moldavite. I said, keep it, keep it. And that was my gift to them. And they indeed started purging all the people that were no longer good for them to be in their lives. Okay, they're actually also purging me from their lives because we were doing something that is quite the same thing. I was learning aromatherapy, and they were my friend and the person who was healing me, and they wanted me to be their TA, and so too much. And we lived in the same city, which is a small city with both dominant people. So some crisis happened. We actually were fighting, but I see this from bird eye view. They needed to take distance. They were leaning on me so much that they needed to take distance because I was not this reliable rock. I was going through changes in my life, and then they left like shaken. And the Moldavite actually took care of this. It made sure that we will have this discord. We separate each other. If it's not healthy, separate. And I was the one who gifted them, the Moldavite. So this is quite important because I was also leaning onto their advice a lot. And there was no healthy for both of us. Now that only now I'm holding the Moldavite, I'm thinking about this. So this is another thing that happens. It's very Uranian. It's very Uranus. Okay? It's unexpected, it's blunt, it's sudden. And also the way that this happens, it was actually quite painful because they were learning about, they were a healer, and they had a lot of people coming with dealing with narcissistic abuse, gaslighting and domestic violence in relationship. suddenly, and they told me, like, listen, I don't understand. I know that you all know about these things because I was activist to spread knowledge. Please tell me because I don't understand. Why don't people just walk out? And I try to explain. I said sometimes even not all cases, but sometimes even in childhood, you got certain love from your parents. So if a person was a bit violent to you, you said, no, this is enough for me. Okay. But then there were people who, even if they got love from the parents, there were patterns that are different, that they didn't feel that they will find themselves, or they didn't feel that they can have a place to go to, or they didn't have this family support where they can walk out. And they started to understand. But then, as I was living another connection that with COVID got strenuous and got not hurtful towards me, I was leaving. Okay, I was leaving. I was walking out, and they were like, "Oh, but maybe and I don't think they are violent. Maybe you have a mindset, and you need to have abundance mindset." And and that was, there was no reasonable reason for them to say that. It was 2019 that year, and I don't consider this betrayal. They were on the path of learning, but it was very painful because what does the person need? Validation. And it's like I was denied validation. I had to validate myself and I had to walk out from that person. Again, they weren't doing that on purpose. They were receiving like channelings. So um, that means that both this person that I was going away from, okay, he was a person that was supporting me he was opening my eyes in my Me Too era. But then he himself, he told me before before bad things happened, he told me, listen, if I talk like weird about women or like sexist, I'm going through something. So maybe such thing can happen. Okay. So he was feeling this himself. And this is why I say zero judgment. Something was happening beyond. Okay. And so we were leaning on each other too much. We needed to let go. And then this lady, we were, both of us were leaning on each other too much. We had to let go. So the Moldavite caused such a situation where we would have discord. Okay, this is also Aries, but this particular one is very Uranian. It's going to make you go away, and it's not necessarily about betrayal or why is it fucking up my life. It's not fucking up your life. If you're in a relational path that's not good for you, you're codependent, you're leaning too much, you're staying there for comfort. It's Taurus. Okay, Taurus is fixed sign. Staying there for, and they were both fixed signs. One was Aquarius with a lot of planets in Capricorn, but Aquarius, Sun, and Saturn, and the other was a Virgo stellium, which is in my 7th house. Okay, and of course we were not partners. That was not the nature of the relationship. It's not like a marriage. So fix. So even though they were mutable, but that other person was Earth sign, so not fixed, but Earth sign, and then the fixed axis, and then another Earth sign, which is Capricorn. So we're kind of like leaning onto each other's Earth element, but it was not actually stable. It was not actually sustainable. It was not healthy. It was too much safety there, too much giving our power away even, and nobody's to blame for that. So also when I was in therapy and I had been astrally involved with my psychologist, so of course he was letting into certain whatever passions, attractions, or whatnot. And even though I did not experience this in the beginning as violation of my boundaries, it was actually like a weird surprise. It's not healthy, right? It's not healthy for a psychologist to do this. And I was working with the Moldavite. Things started getting like really weird until I had to walk out. Till I had to walk out, even though it was dangerous, I had to walk out. So Moldavite can give a person the feeling that, oh, this is fucking up my life. I'm breaking up with everybody. You're purging whatever is relationally unhealthy to you. Purging is not going to stay in your life. It's going to put you on the path to owning yourself, to living the path that you came here to live with. And this is very Uranus. Uranus in Taurus, you know, this little green crystal that is not a crystal. Okay, it's a form of glass. It's tektite. That is also associated with aliens because they say 15 million, thousand, I don't know, years ago, some meteorite collided into Earth around Chesky, and these babies were born. Okay, so it doesn't mean that this is the meteorite. It has some meteorite. It's a molding with the Earth element, but think about it, something from space with something from Earth. Okay, very Uranian, very Uranian. And this is indeed the effect. It's unusual in the world of crystals, and it also has the power of an outer planet in the sense that this is not a personal planet crystal per se. If you think about rose quartz, it's a personal planet crystal. It's very transformative, but this one's like if you don't feel crystals, you feel this like just something with this thing. That's the work of an outer planet. If you do, even if you don't know astrology, usually when an outer planet crosses your inner planet, or when you have eclipse on a personal planet, you go like, there really is something weird happening in the sky. I don't know what it is, but there really is something weird happening in the sky, even if you're not into astrology and you don't know what astrology is. And indeed, with all the outer planets changing signs, astrology is booming too. Um, So Uranus is very much tied into Moldavite, and Uranus in Taurus is particularly, of the things that Uranus rules, is particularly putting this green crystal, not crystal, um, into the front stage. And when did it boom? On social media. Okay, it boomed. It also boomed on YouTube, which is how a part of how I met it, and is also boomed on social media. And by the way, the person from whom I heard about this crystal, I went to a very interesting process. They were shamanistic healing, energy healing. They convinced me to do cord release, and then I learned how to do this, and I did it several times with many people dead and alive. Um, and then we kind of like took another path. It's just that I was no longer relying on the services. So they were in my life for a particular amount of time. And then there was also something going wrong in these ceremonies, not for their fault. And I had to find a new way to do it. I had to rely on myself. Why? I was leaning on too much on them, and then something started messing with energy. And so I see the pattern. Okay. And this is a pattern that I am having. I am getting excited about things, and then I tend to try it, like, and this excitement is like baby excitement. Let's try it like this. Let's try it. Let's see what this can do. Also with channeling, and then it gets kind of messed up, and I'm having to remove the dosage. Also, before I separated from my psychologist, I was working with Moldavite and Herkimer, and I heard the word dosage coming in, dosage. So I tend to go overboard, and that also includes relationships. And so things get weird and messy when I'm overdosing on them. And it's difficult for me. Like, I need to learn how to do the right dosage of things, right? And you think about this, I also learned aromatherapy, and I leaned on to, for me, I leaned onto quite strong, quite potent stuff. And even the lady that I was learning from, she said, you summon tremendously strong defenses around you. And she wanted me to use Measurum. She wanted me to remove these defenses, but it was actually needed at the time for what the changes that I was undergoing. And she said to us, people around you, it's like, it's such strong sense, such strong transformation. People are not ready for this. And so for most students where they were learning and they were doing things like for acne or for skin issues, and I was doing like for transformation of the soul. So most of people got mouth to ear. And for me, it kind of like the people that were using my stuff, they were either for new beginning. I had a client that left life risking relationship, and and was anchoring herself also with one of the blends that I prepared. I actually wanted to do a project for people who survived like sex trafficking and so on and so forth, to have like free blends, because like, you know, something with rose or even something you put on the skin that returns to self-love. And I asked for donations. The woman who donated to this project was a sex worker previously herself, and she was from Red Umbrella. Okay, so she was like pro sex work, and she donated, and she really liked the, you know, the stuff that they did and how to do with fertility also. Um, but I didn't get that mouth to ear kind of like. And when I asked, you know, my colleague, she said like, yes, of course, because you're doing such deep transformation and you're meant to help the people that you're helping. You also are going to go through a process yourself. You need to go through a process yourself. And that was true. But that connecting with the fact that they didn't understand, you know, people who go through such thing, and 2019 was filled with, you know, relationship, domestic stuff, especially with COVID, even more intensely. Um, People were forced to face their relationships, and she was on the process of learning herself, and so we had to fall apart. So it was very chaotic, but very necessary. Whatever I was overdosing on had to go. You can't overdose on each other. You're here to serve a purpose in each other's life. When this purpose is done, you need to leave. If you try to lean on this person too much for your stability, it's gonna get taken away. It can be very not debilitating, but kind of like, ah. But it's also making sure. And look, I'm taking this crystal again when Venus retrograde, okay, is showing up again, is birthing again, and when we had squares to Uranus from Venus, the ruler, from the sun, and now from the moon, from Lilith, boom, I'm taking out my Moldavite. And she was sitting next to my pepper. I put her on the pepper plant. Um, so it's transforming, even transforming the space. When I planted, literally planted one Moldavite in my in a section in our yard that nobody was using. Eventually, what happened is I started to grow a garden there. Okay. And not only that, the macler and the landlord was very satisfied. They're like, okay, you can bring trees, you can bring this, but then they cut trees. So I was like, okay, there's something very annoying here, but it moves things around, okay? And you're gonna see those changes when you work with this Moldavite. It has this Uranus effect. So you might be called to work with this when you have a Uranus transit. Uranus is going to do this anyway. Moldavite can be supportive, and if your life is in stagnation, Moldavite is going to take you out of this stagnation. You're going to be almost forced to do what you came here to do. Literally, this is what happened to me. Okay, I became unappointable. Um, and so even with spirit of matter, okay, I became unappointable. It's kind of like, hey, the spirit of matter is good, but you need to shine yourself. Okay, you like to paint, you like to write. When Uranus was on the 22nd degree, talked about it yesterday. I wrote a series of one-page short stories to do with death, that are like alchemizing what is happening in the world. Okay, and this helped me to cope with the internal chaos that I had. So you need to create. I like growing the plants. You need to grow a garden. You need to grow your garden. You need to grow your pets. Okay? And it's going to direct to that. So I go sick, sick, sick. What gets me out of sickness? Doing what I came here to do. Only that I can wake up to do. Other things, and only after I do what I came here to do, then I can brush my teeth, then I can shower, then I can try something again. Okay? This is Moldavite. This is also Uranus. Uranus was literally going across my lot of spirit at the time. Lot of spirit is your response to life, is what you came here to do. It's your talent. It's also related with your career, because this is how this is your choice in life. If lot of fortune is fate, this is gonna happen. Something fate is gonna happen. Lot of spirit is how you respond to fate. When a lot of spirit has peak times in zodiac releasing, then you are doing something at peak time. Like you are doing something that you choose to do. You respond. You interfere. Okay, this is the election where you get to choose what to do. And Uranus was literally on my lot of spirit when I was kind of like, the only thing I could do was to write, to create, to water my garden, and so on and so forth. So Moldavite, when you work with this, is doing the same thing. Okay, you're being called on the path. This is a green crystal. Green is the energy of the heart chakra. Green is the energy of the heart chakra, and is basically shaking up what's not necessary from the heart. Anything that you lean on that's no longer supportive of your path or not supportive of your path in that dosage, it releases the excess, it releases the overdose. Okay, it releases the overdose of something in your life. And like any green crystal, it is, or green energy, it creates rejuvenation. So what no longer serves walks out the doorway. I recently even realized that my email address, made to love magic, I would need to change it because it's by a Nick Drake song, yes, but the lyrics of the song are, I was born to love no one, no one to love me. It's like, come on, you can't hold this as your email. You can't hold this as your energy stamp. You must change it. And I already have another and a half Spirit of Matter email. Um, and was kind of like, oh my God, you have not been seeing this for so long. And I felt like I don't have the power to make any more changes in my life. No, this will have to go. So something that has been with me for many, many, many years, almost a decade, since 2008 or 9, even 2007. And I'm like, okay, now it's, and literally um, and now it has to go. I was at the point where I was looking for a future. Okay. Now I was leaning too much on this. Even my email address will need to change. Okay. No longer use this email address. Enough. Stop using this email address. Stop it. It's no longer serving you. Okay. And this is also social media. When you overdose on social media, then I noticed something would happen with my phone or something like this. So social media needs to do it differently. Social media needs to be different. Social groups need to be different. Okay, one of the processes when Uranus was crossing my sun, a lot of groups, social groups that I was in, I was no longer, a lot of close friends, no longer. Okay? No longer. Because it really does need to serve you. You can't over rely even on a community. It's going to help you to find a community wherever you need to, but it's also going to manage this so that you're not overdosing, overleaning on community, on overleaning on tribe. One of the things that I'm talking about with Pluto coming to Aquarius is that the type of tribes should give a lot of space to the individual. Yes, we should have our own land. Yes, we should have our own housing. Yes, we should have. And when it's overdosed, then this excess we get rid of too. Okay, that is power of Moldavite. It's a part of the power of Moldavite. And you're going to get the energy and rejuvenation to do and to make changes in your life And also, those things that are not there are going to be taken away from you. And this is very good. Okay. In the beginning, I was afraid to work with Moldavite because I heard it's such a strong crystal and changes and transformation and da 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 da. But also excited, and this is also Uranus. You're excited to, it creates excitation in life. You're excited towards the changes. Um, with this crystal, I've had significant, I think, improvement a bit to my eyesight as well. But this is because Uranus natally in conjunct my luminaries and Uranus was crossing my sun. Okay, this is already particular. It's not necessarily what's going to happen with you. Um, what else? I found, and also an energy, even a person in astrological community, where I was like, there's so much. Sometimes it's not on purpose. You listen to someone, and then you listen and listen. And there you kind of get stuck. And there, one time they wrote about Moldavite that this energy is too much for them. Okay, so as I'm working with Moldova, it's kind of like, okay, you were leaning on this person for too much. They gave good things to you, good ideas, good advice, good energy, but you're leaning too much now. I'm called to work with Moldavite. For them, this energy is no good, so their energy is not going to be in the field as much because it's overwhelming. Okay, and so I am learning to go back to center, back to me, and it's even something very subtle, like this, right? Something very subtle. So for me, Taurus is the third house, and Aquarius is the 12th, and Sagittarius is the 10th. Okay, and my Uranus is in the 10th house, and my midheaven is in Sagittarius. Uranus is not next to my midheaven. Even when I think about a talisman that I ordered from the Temamundi, I was called in to work with the Temamundi by Caitlin Kopic. Caitlin Kopic has the conjunction of Uranus and Saturn, and I met another person who had this conjunction. That other person had it between my midheaven and Neptune. And I'm like, oh, so that's why I was so called to work with this Temamundi stuff. Has to do with Uranus too. Okay? And the conjoining of Saturn and Uranus, while it can be very debilitating and annoying because Uranus is about abrupt changes and rebellion, and Saturn is about structure, but also the structure outside of structure, which is Aquarius. It can, as conjunction, it leads to a person that can invent even an entire field of studies, Jupiter, or entire philosophy. Okay, Caitlin Kopic literally did that with the way that she's doing talismans that are not just crystals as they traditionally were used to, but also the hand cream that you're using, the soap that you're washing your hands with. And that was not done before. And that other person that I met, they were doing this, they're learning to do this with fertility. They're integrating shamanistic teachings around fertility, and they're learning also how to be a nurse. So, yeah. And the thing is, they had the sun and moon not seeing each other. I have sun and moon seeing each other. And for me, it was very obvious that a health personnel has to have both the energy shamanistic healing stuff and the cognitive stuff. And they were like, I feel like something is, I am this and I am that and I don't understand and I feel insecure. Like, how can I be a healing person? I'm like, exactly, you have to be this. You came here for the world to be this person. So I was able to facilitate the connection, okay, between the left and the right eye, mind, and so on with more ease and validate, because this is important. So it's important for humanity that we're going to have such people. And that happened to me when I was doing an Antares talisman with the fallen Jupiter. And they had the fallen Jupiter too in their chart. And immediately that connected me with them. Also, they gave me an old computer that they were no longer using. So that was also like the technology, okay, the gift of technology. Okay, Moldavite, I think, can interfere with your technology, and this is different. There are this actually deserves a video. Mercury interferes with technology, and it has a divine guidance. Like if you've been overdosing your phone, it's gonna run out, or maybe you're gonna run into a person. Okay, I had been compromising a lot of my content because there are things I couldn't do with my old phone. Then my old phone died, and then some lady at the post office bought me a phone because I needed basically the phone to be received without an appointment. And I'm recovering from trauma, and I couldn't wait. But also it makes sense that you don't have to wait in line for your money that you hold in the bank, right? And she not only believed me for what happened to me. I traveled almost 2,000 kilometers by public transportation because then they were more like nice and less people in that branch of the bank, and she believed me, and she said, come here tomorrow. If you can come here tomorrow, I will make sure you have a new phone. And I thought they have an old phone. She gave me this, and then I saw like an actual receipt that she bought. Either she or they gathered money and they got me this phone that I'm broadcasting with. Okay, that I did not have money to buy with my income. So that was like, oh, and I was working with Mercury and Venus talismans at the time and honoring Sedna that entered Gemini. So this is Mercury. Mercury will do such things. And then there is Uranus, which can be more like on a mass scale. Okay. Even now, the way I charge for my readings is buy me a talisman, buy me a course. It's more like the economy of Aquarius, simply because you can transfer me money, but I don't know what to do with taxation. And it would cost me, I would have to cross a certain bracket, and then I'm living in a country where there is a religious revolution, so the shekel is very weird, and now the dollar is very weird, and all the coinage is weird because they're thinking to recall the fiat money, okay, in favor, okay, cash in favor of digital coins. Okay, so the entire monetary system is changing. So what can I ask of you? I ask of you money. What is money now? What is money now? Okay, money is today here, today there. So I'm like, okay, I'm asking for you for stuff that are useful for me. So maybe another course or a talisman that's going to help me, facilitate my resources in this time of tremendous changes that happen in the world at large, and fiscal changes. And so Uranus can cause technological things on that level. Okay, for example, right now, after I moved out of a relationship was no longer healthy, I canceled my bank-related credit card because they wouldn't send it to the new address. And we have a problem in bureaucracy that I cannot register in my village. I cannot register with my new address. So I cannot get my credit. So I don't have a bank credit card, but I cannot enter the site of my bank. I have to go there personally. Okay. And it's kind of leading me to, and I had a card that is outside of the bank. Okay, so then I have to load this card with money. But then if I cannot enter the site of the bank, then I have to go to specifically to physically be at the bank. It's like, okay, I'm learning that I have to do economy differently. I have to do economy differently. Okay, it's more resource economy. This was also happening when Uranus was in Aries, with 2008 when Pluto entered Capricorn. We began to think about resource economy and how to do it correctly, how to do it with respect to human rights. Yeah, it's a different type of economy. It relies on the people and not so much on the government. And this is happening, And then there is the way that Algol will interfere with technology. And Algol is interfering with electricity, which is also Uranus is also electricity, but Algol is very simple. I was working with the petition in Algol, working with the energy of Algol by the petition of Christopher Warnock. And I was called to work with this. I had no money to buy this. yet. I might soon be buying this actually, if it is in line for me. And I petitioned alcohol, and I was in between two houses. Um, and the first thing that I got at channeling was no taxation without right implementation. And there were beginning to be bureaucracy problems, still are, with filing my tax reports as a business. And that happened before the revolution in Israel. And of course, when I was in between houses, I saw what my taxes do, what my taxes don't do. Okay, I do have certain income that I would need to change because it's not right now. It's based on my taxes actually, which I also learned use with Mercury Talisman. But what Algol did is basically forbidding me from paying taxes, which is scary because it's like it needs to be done, but I kind of like also receiving money from the country just helps me to pay the rent, and I don't have the access right now. So those things need to change. Resource economy is going to need to change. And what I do, I'm growing crops now, and I love it, and I'm excited about growing food. My grandfather during the Holocaust, he was escaping to bring food and going back to the camp because he looked Irish. He was escaping to bring food, was going back to the camp to bring food for the people. And then after the Holocaust, he opened a shop of vegetables and fruits, and he was selling it was his own shop. Okay, it's striking because we are continuing the path of our grandparents. My grandmother had her two legs amputated because she worked for chocolate factory. Literally, she worked for chocolate factory, and she was chocolatier. And when I was working in food, fast food, like McDonald's, and later at the bank, and I could not stand on my feet. Later, I could not speak, and I was like, "How am I supposed to work?" And I tried to work as a cashier. I had dyscalculia. It's like, what is going on? But I was a writer. I am a writer. As Rahu is going, I'm going through a Rahu return from the time when it was in Aries. I still am a writer, a creator. I'm not only a writer, but I still am a writer. Hmm? It's not just for leisure time. And so this was with my grandmother. And also when I was going under crisis, then they said, okay, you are crazy. Maybe you work for a chocolate factory. And I said, okay. But the thing is that they don't pay much for the workers. And this was not a situation for my grandmother. Working for chocolate factory was a job. And she was very appreciated in her workplace, and it bought a different mortgage rate for her housing. So they bought the house and paid with the income. So it was different times back then. Okay, she was a factory worker, and she lost her feet to the diabetes. But the upper side, like, she was appreciated at work. She was given the security. I was not given security at work. Literally, Uranus is in my 10th house. I have to do either, astrology, being creative, revolution. It's just so, and you can be the greatest boss in the world. But you hire me, I came to do a revolution in your office. I came to do a revolution there. Okay, I was working for insurance company, and the man who was the son of the boss, he hired women because he thought women are compliant, and it was not even from like sexism or something. He just didn't want trouble. So it's like, women are compliant, they're doing the job, and they're doing okay, and he was paying them. But as the 2008 came, there was crisis, and the money was no longer enough. And so I said, I was asking for a raise according to what I need, and the big boss told me, you are worth it, but I don't know if I can pay. And he was so honest. And eventually I told him, listen, I will have to look for a job that can pay. And I did not have anything else. And I was that honest. And he was later very supportive of me. And I didn't even know it. because the sound was like I had the Discord like he had his own issues. But the thing is that later they hired three people after I left, three people to fill in for my place, and each was paid uh, more than I was paid. So eventually it's not, again, it's not vengeance, because the big boss, he said you're worth it, he was not in my way. Okay, it's not happened because of this, but he had to adjust, he had to pay his employees more because of the changing of the times. So even though they were women, still he had to offer them a stable income that is higher than he used to offer. Okay, he still had to go, there was changes happening to his business, and I was just the messenger of the revolution. Okay, that was happening, and his son was hiring women because women just compliant, they're doing their job. He was not intending to oppress women. This was not where he came from. He had his issues, but that's not where he came from originally. He just wanted to have dedicated employees, and women tend to be dedicated employees. Okay, so I want to also clarify that, because we are opposed to Me Too, and people have this awareness, but we also want to be honest and loyal to the places that I have gained from and that were not abusive towards me at all. Okay, there may be other issues, but not in this way. So that's a thing. This is what Uranus in Taurus does. Labor market, resources, lands. We are rethinking those things exactly. Moldavite, if you're called in to work with Moldavite, she is just supporting of these energies. Okay, they are just going to purge stuff. And holding a Moldavite at this time is pretty much consenting to changing, consenting, saying, Moldavite, Uranus, I agree to change I agree to go to be on the path that is good for me. I agree to release these things from my life. I agree to revolutionize my life. I agree, I understand this is needed. I agree. I trust that the things that I need in the dosage that I need are going to come to me. I trust that the eurekas, that the understanding, that the insights, that the shifts in thinking and in relating and in habits and in communicating are going to happen in the sudden and the permanent. I trust. Okay? I trust. And this is a great energy to work with. If you don't have the money to buy this, I know this is very expensive. And even though it is ethically sourced, mostly, and I know there are a lot of fakes because it is very expensive, you can you can screen capture this. Okay, it also has the energy of me, but I'm holding a Moldavite. You can work with the picture of the crystal. Okay, a site that I know works with the real crystals is Mark Bayersky. So he is offering, I know Mark Bayersky crystals are very expensive. Sometimes he has giveaway. People have some giveaways for this energy, but you will run into it. Okay, my first Moldavite that I bought, I was at the crystal store in Tel Aviv. It was a new crystal store actually that I was going to, and there was Moldavite in a price that I could afford, and I was afraid of this crystal. And I said, okay, it comes here. I was thinking about this crystal. It's in a place that I can afford. They will buy it directly from the miner. Okay. I'm pretty sure my next Moldavite I'm going to buy directly from the miner. And I might sell them too, because they're ethically sourced crystal for as long as you can mine them. And I might give them too. If I'm called in to do this and I'm okay with this. Again, if I can do giveaways, I'm okay with this because it's good energy now. It's good energy now. And the thing is, you don't have to know astrology. Okay? You can work with the picture of this. I advise you to, because it's very strong energy. Okay, you work in dosages that are good for you. You learn when to put it away, when to keep it. And also when you have dosage excess, they will either disappear or they will, will forget them. Or, like me, I buried one on in the land. I was kind of guided to do so. You will see this. And so it teaches you also like the right dosage of these changes and transformations too. And this means you are consenting to those changes, saying, I'm consenting to be at the right path in my life. I'm consenting to let go of what no longer serves. I'm consenting to change the relational patterns in me so I can enjoy life, so I can live life to the fullest in the way that I was meant to live. Um, and this is ethically sourced crystal. When you find a real one, either you contact a miner or you reputable vendor that holds this. If you're in any way energy sensitive, you're going to feel it. Even if you're not energy sensitive, if you're buying this from a physical store, you can hold it in your hand. You're going to feel stuff. Okay? You're going to feel stuff. You're going to know that this is the thing you need to work with. It is just so. How to purify this? Right now I'm working with soil and getting soiled up, so I'm putting it in the soil. I want to travel with this one to the airport. Oh, you haven't been to the airport, haven't you? I take nearly everything that I have to the airport. Every talisman, they go to visit the airport. Because I know that I'm in a change that includes being abroad and includes traveling. It's a part of my life path, revolutionary. Um, and even though I have Saturn in the ninth, I have Pluto in the ninth, I have Mars in the ninth, and so you can understand this can be restricting. They can be like pilgrimage, but Saturn also rules agriculture. Okay, Mars rules like needles, pine trees, or needle-like plants. Pluto is transformation. Pluto is also compost. Okay, so doing these things can be remediative. And indeed, even when I was trying something new with like that cream that didn't work yesterday, that infused oil that didn't work yesterday, what did I remember? I remember my tomato is growing, my pepper is growing. Okay, I'm growing life. Okay, okay, it got proportions. It's very powerful, but it got proportions. and and this is a remediation. Okay, it's a path of growth. That growing agriculture is good for you, for Saturn. And for different, wherever Saturn is in your, I made a video about this, wherever Saturn is in your chart, and I can give you reading about this too. Okay, it can be very exciting reading. I will still have to learn this, so I will learn as we go. So if you give me, I don't know, Saturn, let's say in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Think about clove. Think about saffron. It's also Jupiter associated, and I wanted to grow some, and I still do. Okay. So think about Saturn in Taurus. Taurus ruled by Venus. Venus rules like roses and stuff. Roses. I was seeing. I think it was four, no, or three, four yellow lotuses when Jupiter was in Taurus. I think it was conjunct in Venus. I'm not sure. And I was seeing, yes, Jupiter conjunct in Venus. I was seeing four, sorry, yellow lotuses, lotus flowers. Okay, so Venus, Jupiter, flower, Venus, Jupiter, yellow. And it was by a building that had to do with cars. And Venus rules cars, and it's also third house. So third house for me, and third house is also vehicle transportation. So I was going off from public transportation. I know I need to do driving license. I need to do driving license, but it's also another trick because I'm known that I'm recovering from trauma. Then I have to see a medical person to do a driving license, and I'm like, okay, I have a problem with that because I alone define who I am. Okay, I deal with this in my way, not in your. You don't tell me you don't have driving license. Okay, what matters is if I drive carefully. But also the area, the surroundings where I am is not supportive of driving carefully. So because people drive like crazy here, and you have to go with the rules of the crazy people of the crazy driving, and so it can be very dangerous. So I'm also not excited, and also I wanted to to do this safely, right? So many things have to change so that, and those things are a part. Those changes are part of what I'm bringing actually. So it's kind of like, how? I know I need to do driving license, and not only for a car, but also for like a van. Um, and so it's very interesting. Okay, so going back to these things, but for you might be different. Whatever you need to do, what you need to look at, where is Uranus in my natal chart? Uranus in your natal chart is going to be very activated when you work with the Moldavite because it's Uranus ruled. Um, and Uranus is now in Taurus. Where's my Taurus chart? Where's my natal Venus? Because it's ruling. Where's my natal Saturn? Okay. I think I revolutionized my thinking of Saturn. Saturn is the out of sect malefic for me, which is the more problematic planet in the chart. Okay, that's the planet that can kill you, basically. It's like Mars can injure you, Saturn might mean your death, but Saturn is also agriculture. So honoring Saturn is actually useful. And then if I was talking about my grandmother, thinking about my grandfather, okay, I was not able to walk on my feet. So I could not work in ordinary job. I had to do but I could also not do what I want to do. I had to grow food, not just grow plants, grow food. And now that I'm thinking how important it is to know how to grow food, and I'm thinking about my grandfather. So he was smuggling food into the camp, and then he owned a store that sold food, but that was particular fruits and vegetables. And I'm growing food. Okay, recently, and also we have a religious revolution in Israel. So I'm secular. Next to me, two things, very interesting things happened to me. One thing, I was going to travel just in where the village where I'm at, and a nice family from Jerusalem, Orthodox family, came, and they wanted to do to walk, but they only had like one bottle, not full of water. And so I warned them, you are in a desert, and many religious families, they have people who die during traveling because they don't know how to travel. They think I can walk like this, and they love the land. They love to travel a lot to honor, like the land that they are living in, and to explore the land, and to travel by feet. It's good, but they don't know how to do it correctly, and so they can die. And so I was there, a secular person of two genders, mind you, um, literally warning an Orthodox family with the children to not go, to enjoy the view, but go back to where like they are, and not go in the desert where they can easily die. Um, and they listened to me. Okay, so it was literally. And then I saw a paramedic. I told him this story. So I was saving a Jewish family in Israel. Uh, but then another thing is I have a neighbor, very nice neighbor, and I told her that I'm growing things and so on. And we had very interesting interaction. One day, they were filming a video clip for I think the children, and I saw things with cameras. Okay, because I also I'm doing photography. I'm also a filmmaker, um, and I met her and I saw this with the camera, and I told her, I just had this camera synchronicity, and I go out, and what do I see? I think it was also bikes and people shooting a video right here in the neighborhood, like this omen. And I spoke in a language that she can understand and said this. They call God Hashem, so this is like the Hashem is with you. Okay, it's like the synchronicity of the universe. And then we got connected. And then the other day, I told her like I'm growing stuff. And then actually yesterday, I showed her the passion fruit that was growing, explained to her how I got good yield with the passion fruit, and and gave her some passion fruit. And she told me it takes 4 years for the Jews when they grow something, crops. They give it 4 years until they harvest. And this is good for me to know. Okay, it's good for me to know because I'm growing food and I'm planting new things. So, um, and those things are not just like religious; they're supportive of the land. Think about the Shemitah, which is every 7th year you don't harvest the crops. But what happens with these crops? They become both for maser, for like the people who don't have money, and that they can come, and but this always is true. You always leave 1/10 of your crops to the people who cannot, or or you donate it. Okay, if they don't come, you have to donate it. And I was actually trying to donate it to the fridge, that is like environmental fridge, but nobody took it. And then, oh, suddenly I had a neighbor that found this useful, and maybe she can tell me where can I donate it. So, but the other thing is that it becomes compost. It becomes compost for the land. Because if you're growing for agriculture, for food, you are harvesting these crops in more so the rate that they would be harvested in nature. I'm learning also about permaculture, so to tackle it in another way, again, less a structural way, of the old. It's of the old. Permaculture is of the old, but from different cultures. But then I was learning basically about when to harvest crops from unexpected, an Orthodox neighbor. And even I remember one day I was wearing a dress that was quite, exposed, so for them it's considered not modest. But she told me, "Oh, you look so beautiful in summer look." I'm like, "Oh, you know." Those things happen too. And it's so important in times where women sometimes are not allowed into public transportation as an act of religious rebellion, to also hone in and have these incidents where you do meet the people, and the respect of one another that we have is very important. Okay. So this is also this unusual like type of meetings that is actually contributing. Is like you're meant to communicate with your people, you're meant to learn from other cultures, you're meant um, to meet these people and to engage with these people and to talk with these people and to change through the people. So this is another thing. And Uranus, we know, is communities, is the masses, um, all of that. Moldavite has been known for people to form communities. We literally have communities around Moldavite. Okay, the TikTok booming, people form communities around Moldavite, and they have, whether it's marketing communities or spiritual communities. This thingy, and I got the message. This thing helps to form communities. Okay, when I was beginning my YouTube manifestation channel, I worked also with Moldavite. I felt, first of all, I was very excited about this, but I was like, oh, Moldavite is something that both I am excited about and is searchable, is SEO-able. Okay. Um, and this is perhaps is more true on TikTok, but is also helpful to find community. But community, this is where your genuine needs are, when you genuinely are yourself, which is exactly what I need. Okay, I had these troubles with community where like one aspect of me is pronounced here, one aspect of me is in another community, and then you have a community around your hobby. It's like, okay, where's the community where we can be ourselves? Okay, and learning to comprise that type of community. So not a cult, but actually community. And that is also very helpful with this. By the way, I have 12th house Aquarius. When I was in between two homes, I was traveling to Netherlands, which is exile. It was forced exile, basically, because I was trying to find a place to stay that is not a street. So, and I had Dutch passport, so I said, okay, I can do this. Because if I was going to hostels and saw I was either got sexually harassed or like weird things happening, I saw like a pedophile, really really weird stuff. Okay, and say, okay, why is this thing happen of all the people? Why this thing happened to me? Why am I exposed to that where other people might not be exposed to this at all? And it's part of awareness that it's part of the awareness that I had to bring because those planets meet my personal planets. So, um, which can also be the answer to the question, why me? You're an agent of the change. That's why. So I traveled to Netherlands, and in Netherlands, I was one day in the street, and I met a woman who tried to recruit me to human trafficking, and she thought I was immigrant. This is major problem. If somebody tells you you need to pay for passport 1,000 euros and this, and Dutch passport is very sought after, don't believe them. They cannot fix you your passport. They are trying to recruit you to human trafficking. It's not as easy, okay? Unless you have like money to pay, and then you will find people who will do it. My father, my father is Dutch. So my father isn't the man who decides to have child with my mama, decided to have child with my mama, and accepted me. So the thing is, when they were married, they were thinking to move to Israel, and he wanted to marry. And in Israel, you cannot marry a Jewish woman if you are Gentile. Okay, so he was willing to go through a process called Giur, which is to become a Jew. And they were in Netherlands, and they went to a rabbi, and he wanted to go through Giur. He wanted to learn about the Jewish religion, like he was going for it. And the rabbi said, okay, you pay me 5,000 gulden. Back then it was gulden. And I make you Jew. And my mother said, over my dead body, you do this. Okay? So they came to it, they married a civil marriage. They came to Israel with a civil marriage. So yeah, according as much as Orthodox Jews are concerned, I'm probably considered a child out of marriage. Okay, because they don't acknowledge, although they had to divorce, I think in the Orthodox, even if you married civil, you have to divorce in the Orthodox or something like this. I'm not sure, but yeah, something like weird like this. Israel is weird like that. But yeah, it was a rabbi telling him, you pay 5,000 gulden and you're Jewish, you know. But no, he was actually being like serious about this. And my mom says, over my dead body, you do this. Over my dead body, you pay this person 5,000 gulden for nothing. And so when you have the money, people will give you everything you want. They will give you Dutch passport, they will give you rights, they will give you many things. But if they tell you you have to work and it costs 1,000 euro and you have to work for this 1,000 euro, this is slavery, and it's the worst kind of slavery there. Okay, please, if you hear, translate this to Ukrainian, translate this to Russian, explain people, share this is so important now. Translate this to any language because we have refugees all over the world. Okay, you never have to work for paying for your passport. It's a hoax. It's a hoax. Okay, for your papers is a hoax. Okay, passports are a hoax, but whatever, it's and it's becoming more evident now. As I was traveling, I was getting this challenge. I was looking at the airport, this clogging of people going to the plane and checking their passport. And it's kind of like, you see, this is like a clog in the intestines. Okay, how this channeling says, it's like a clog in the intestines. I'm like, what do you mean? Says, it's constipation. We don't need this. I'm like, whoa. All these things that I haven't been considering. Why does a passenger have to wait so long for you to take a flight? We have the technology. We have the technology to accommodate for many people in the sky, like birds. Okay, a tower to the plane. Okay, the ATC, cockpit to tower. Conversations, which I love to watch. They have funny jokes. We have this. You can buy a yacht and you can travel the seas. And there are even environmental forms of fuel for both planes and for ships. Saturn retrograde in Pisces, not so good for ship traveling by sea. But, you know, and yes, it can mean that aircraft can end up in sea. Like, yes, it's true. It is true. It is difficult. Because the ruler of air sign, which is Aquarius, is in an ocean retrograde and is gloomy there. So there can be aircraft crashing into the ocean. Yes, unfortunately, this can happen. But more we see it with ships, with refugees, kind of like trying to escape or paying money to escape, and they're being hoaxed and they're being drawn on purpose. All this like really dark and weird and ugly stuff that need to change. Okay. Put a screenshot, print a screenshot, work with the freaking energy. Okay. This is important. This is important. So yeah, and I promised I'm going to talk about the two other crystals. So the other crystal I was holding is rhodochrosite and kyanite. Kyanite is blue crystal, good for communication. I don't know about the harvesting. Okay, I don't know if it is ethically sourced. So you need to do your research. It's not certification. Don't look for certification. Oh my God. Okay, when I was in Netherlands, I had a very, very wonderful woman helping me. And she was taking me even to a crystal shop. It was closed because it was locked down. And she told me I only buy crystals with certification to know that they are real. Anybody can fake a certification. Anybody can fake a paper. Anybody can fake a paper. What can you do? You can buy a crystal in its raw form. Because the law in the EU says all the chain of command has to be, chain of supply has to be ethically sourced until the processing, inclusive of the processing, but they don't go to the raw form. And the majority, what happens is that the people who mine the crystals, even the people who hire these children, because it's not that they want to be evil to children, they need to make money. And the children have work first. The children can work, their parents cannot. And they cannot pay these children much because they are not getting much from the processors. The crystal has to go through processing to reach to your hand. And so this processing takes money, and the processing is ethically sourced according to law, but they cannot get to the miners because the miners are minors and they are dying there. But you say, oh, the solution is not to buy crystal. No, they will be human trafficked in the worst way possible. Okay, because it's not that they don't have bad work conditions, they don't go to molestation and stuff like this. But if not for this, they become like guerrilla warriors, children guerrilla. Okay, sex trade of children, all of these things. And here they can die on this job. Okay, so you understand this is very sensitive, very tricky situation. But if the money is going to the processors of the crystal, okay, that these children, they're harvesting the raw form of the crystal. If you buy the raw form of the crystal, okay, you eliminate the processors. Now we make it easier to trace the actual miners. Okay, it's one step. It's not the whole story. There are more steps. When as I'm receiving them, I will tell you. So I don't know if this one is ethically sourced. I bought this before I was aware that that is how crystals are mined. So again, you can work with this in energy. And this is good. So blue ray is good for communication, good for facilitating communication, finding the words to things. If you're emotionally overwhelmed, you can find the words to speak and think maybe in a more air. It's of air. It's also good for Mercury retrograde. Blue crystals are good for Mercury retrograde. I'm still wearing blue for some reason. Oh, it's Mercury day, actually. Yeah. The Mercury color is green, but the communication. Okay, facilitating throat chakra communication. Just true to blue crystals in general is aligning of the aura. Um, yeah, it's very nice. And you have turmeric on it because I put some turmeric. I put it in my plants and I put turmeric on my plants, and now it has turmeric on it. And again, I'm having this golden blue. It's also covered in gold field, which is gold color. Gold and blue is returning to my life. Poof. Gold and blue. Working with these colors. And the last one is a rhodochrosite. More expensive. Again, I don't know if it's ethically sourced, but it's not. It doesn't want to come here. It's kind of like wants to stay here. And yeah, I don't know. It's with my yeah, I don't know why it's there, but rhodochrosite is good for like inner child love and so on. But again, I don't know if it's ethically sourced. Maybe it isn't, so it doesn't want to come up. I don't know. Okay, it's just so. But those are, and so there is working with tektite, black, the black one, the tektite Moldavite. They can be very protective. Tektite is also good for grieving. Okay, so if you have anything lung related, tektite is good. Herkimer diamond amplifies Moldavite. Okay, so you want to think if you want to do this. Do you want to amplify Moldavite? When I was working with Moldavite and Herkimer diamond, I got dosage. Okay, so it was overdose. Huh? And I tend to overdose. So you don't always have to amplify Moldavite. Any crystal. Okay, any crystal you can put with this and see how it works. It's going to amplify the changes that you have in regarding to this crystal. And so raw forms of crystals better than processed because it's more chance that you get to the actual miners, and it's more chance that less exploitation is needed because less people are involved with transferring this crystal to you. You think about this like a pyramid. If from the manufacturer to the consumer, there are many stages. It's like a pyramid scheme. Okay, that is why pyramid schemes are exploitative. Okay, and when we buy more directly, okay, then from those who make, then we have less people to feed on the way. But this also means that the manufacturer, the person who mines, the person who sources the actual raw material is also getting paid well. Okay, so we do want international economy. We do want shipment. We do want people comprising things like essential oil blends, like artwork. Okay, we also want to mitigate the levels that we have in the hierarchy of paying. Okay, and that is also it's not necessarily making our products cheaper because right now the prices are maintained by exploitation, so it's not going to make your products cheaper. But if in the same price you remove certain facets of what's happening, and you also think about processing crystals. You can still process crystals. If you buy the crystals raw, and then you send them to somebody who processed them, then you're better off than if you're buying them processed. And this is me. Even if you're a vendor or do an astrological talisman, if you buy the raw form of the crystal and then you send it to somebody who processed the crystal, now you have put yourself in between the processing and the raw crystal, so you can make sure that the person who makes these raw crystals, because you're buying from them, who mined those raw crystals, now they are getting paid. Okay, so you just make sure that everybody in the structure is getting well fed. It's important. Let's just think how much more powerful crystals are when they are ethically sourced. Think about the Moldavite, it's ethically sourced. how much more powerful it is, you know? People buy directly from miners. You have to have various rights because it's very guarded. We have limited supply of this. Um, and you think how powerful is Moldavite? And what is it powerful? Changing your relational stuff. Uh, Even on Moldavite, you learn more things other than Moldavite. She calls in energies. She brings in like, yeah, work with this crystal, work with that energy, work with this plant. Like it's very good. And then you run into other Moldavite-like things. For example, I began to work with Pluto, just a symbol of Pluto. I'm in my Pluto square, and it does sextile my ascendant. So I would put a Pluto where instead of the Moldavite, I would put like a symbol of Pluto that I painted and see changes. It's like, oh, you see, there are more things like the Moldavite. Okay, there are more things like the Moldavite. And I discovered astrological magic. It's like, oh, this is also very potent. Uh, because we don't want to over harvest this. So this is not a go buy Moldavite video. Maybe for some, is going creating communities, going back to this Moldavite, but is also going to point to you at different beings, energies, types of things that do facilitate changes, as Moldavite does in their own way. Okay, so I've talked about the Pluto. I've talked about working with Mercury and Mercury talismans, or talismans in general. For psychic protection, working with algal energy, petitioning, doing charity, planetary charity, okay, which Christopher Warnock brought into modern astrological practice. And this is a form of working with the planets that doesn't require you to purchase talismans to be accurate about elections. And it's a way for you to contact in a way that is simple as planetary charity to honor that which the planet rules as well. Um, those things, and growing stuff like garlic, growing certain growing tomatoes for me is like something very interesting is happening with this. I'm not sure even why. You will find the right crops for you, and I can give you even a reading. Where is Saturn for you? Where is your Saturn? And what is the ruler of your Saturn? Where is that ruler? What's in there? Those are the crops that are going to grow the best for you, or you're going to go through the process that you need to go. There may be grief, there may be this, there may be that. They're going to grow well for you. Okay, I can give you a reading. Then maybe you can order me some soil for my garlics. Okay, and so that way it works. Have a very, very, very lovely day. I took advantage of the early morning sun where we still have good weather, and you see I'm already beginning to be, yeah, poof, soil underneath my nails. Already beginning to be extra shiny. So, so yeah, so like I'm glowing, but it's kind of like, oh, it's a bit oily. And it's time to take a freaking shower and go to where their AC is before the sun is becoming too strong. Um, so yeah, it's also thinking about the weather. Astro Victor just uploaded the Chiron semi-square Saturn. Okay, Chiron semi-square Saturn, and that is environmental, taking of care of Earth. So having realizations of healing the Earth. I haven't listened to the whole video, but this is very interesting. Maybe you want to check it out. And I have been getting this, like, what is real about environment that we do need to tend to? Okay, how do we tend to the climate? What about planting forests rather than taking down trees and putting cameras instead in cities? And how important is permaculture? Okay, instead of like fertilizers. And I'm still in the process of that, like how to find the soil And actually, I'm looking to see what happens with my cucumbers because they have these weird pests. And I put turmeric, and I put pepper, and I put mint essential oil, and I put vinegar, and I'm like, and baking soda around, and I'm like, what, like, what is going on? How do I do this naturally? Okay, how do I tend to this naturally? And we'll see. Maybe garlic. Maybe I will put some garlic. Maybe they don't like garlic. I don't know. So I'm learning this myself. A great channel to learn about permaculture and permaculture with astrology is aspects, truth in aspects astrology. Okay, so Moldova, yeah. Oh, look at this. Oh my god, oh my god. As I'm saying, I had a little bit of pain in my big toenail, and I put my Moldavite next to it, and I hold my nail. I have a hallux valgus. So literally, the hand with the Moldavite went there, and now it's kind of like directing my path. It's going where it needs to go. And I'm like, oh, changing the structure of my feet. Okay, so putting Moldavite on something that you want to fix to transform the condition so that it is fixed, in a good way. Is learning more about things is leading me. Now I remember I wanted to go to the airport with the Moldavite. Yeah, I might do that because I said I need to go where there is AC, and I was thinking about the restaurant, and immediately my ingrown toe began to hurt. And it's like, no, this is not a good path. And I was thinking about the airport. So actually, before I was traveling, while exiling myself to Netherlands, I was working with my channeling my toes and toe nails in particular, and they were telling me about the direction to go. The direction to go. So this is happening again. So yeah, and those things that we need to um, learn. So, photography, just looking at the light and shade. Just now have light from the windows, natural light. I love natural light. I'm blessed with natural light in my housing, and I want to keep that. So, that is Moldavite, the connection to Taurus, and the ways that you can use it other than wear it, and also how it connects you to other things that are as useful as Moldavite for you. So when it's time to pull up the Moldavite, you will pull up the Moldavite. When it's time to work with other things, then you will include those other things. They're interconnected. Adjust the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the structure of your posture. And this is a process. I'm getting immediately tired when I'm thinking about this. And immediately I was thinking about tomato. I don't know what is on with tomato. I'm still learning. I know this has a very powerful effect on me, also to do with relationships, being able to see things, believe in things, having the power to be where I'm supposed to be. So I'm supposed to grow more tomatoes and grow with tomatoes, and something like I need to learn about. It's mundane thing. It's tomato, okay, but I need to learn about this. There's something there, and I'm growing this. There's something there. It's very powerful lessons for me uh, of beautiful growth of belief in life, in things, in creation. So yeah. Um, and I bless you with a wonderful day. And I also learned about tomato. There's magic you can do with every single thing. And you can ask from tomato to remove things in life. You put a note inside, then you cut it, and you ask from tomato to remove things, and you put it in the garbage can. So yeah, is another form of magic that you can do with simple fruits and veggies. And engage in this way that's very engaging, and engaging the spirit in those mundane things like growing crops, growing food. This is Also, spiritual work and, learning about this. Um, yeah, have my hair is literally standing out. So white hair standing out. It just caught my eye. I think it's lovely. I think I'll keep it. I'll keep this look. I'll keep this look, maybe. Yeah, this is not a bad hair day. It's a weird hair day. So that is more on the growing food, growing crops, um, growing things on air, growing things in general, and my battery is running out. So I will say, have a beautiful day. Bye bye. And stay on air if you need to be.